there are too many people walking around thinking that a man is masculine and a woman is feminine. And they've created this like stark difference between male and female that just doesn't really exist in real life. We literally could not even operate with each other if we were that drastically different, because we'd be speaking such different languages. We couldn't even do anything together. In order for us to do things together, we have to have a lot of similarities. So when I hear people say things like, oh, masculine and feminine and all of that, I'm just like, you can't speak a completely different language than your partner, because then you can't understand each other. Yeah. So there isn't this clear cut line between masculine and feminine. But I will say this, I will say that the lack of male congruence is the reason why women do not trust men to lead for the most part. So often you'll hear men say, oh, how do you make a woman? They won't listen to you. They won't this right. When someone won't listen to you, it's because they don't trust you. There's a reason they're not trusting you. So there's a lack of trust there. And that's why I talk so much about congruence, because there are male narratives that are just not congruent, and that does a lot more harm than men are actually aware of. And I'm going to give you an example of that. So often men will say that they feel like women are too emotional, and they want women to learn how to be less emotional, so that and be more logical and be more rational and just talk. And so in a way, they're saying that they want women to operate more like men, while also telling women to be less like men. So it's almost like they ask for something, but they also don't want to deal with what comes along with that something. So if you're telling a woman this language is, oh, rest in your feminine and rest in your feminine energy. And for lack of a better term, feminine energy, if we just want to use that language, is very volatile. The reason why feminine energy is volatile is because it's very fluid. So feminine energy is not black and white. So if you're looking for a woman that you want to call feminine, you have to get used to that she's going to be very fluid in her moods, in her needs day to day, what she asks of you moment to moment. Feminine energy is volatile. It is fluid like that. It's not as, it's not as static as masculine energy. Do you understand what I'm saying? So often men will say that they want feminine women, but they don't want to learn how to even handle feminine energy. Because in their minds, they think feminine simply means easier, more passive, more docile. This is how they view feminine energy. But the truth is that what's really constant is masculine energy. Masculine energy is very constant, and it's much more static and unchanging. But feminine energy is very fluid. So when you want her to be more constant and more, stuck in a particular box, you're saying you don't want her to be more feminine. Do you understand what I'm saying? So again, there's a lack of congruence in terms of what it is that they're asking women for. Because often what they're thinking feminine, they just mean, I want to be bigger than you. I want to be stronger than you. I want you to be passive. I want you to be submissive. I want you to be quiet. I want you to be in the corner. This is what they think feminine energy is. That is not what feminine energy is. And it's far from it. Oh,
that sounds amazing.
It's far from it. So my whole point is, before you ask for a woman that is primary, that shows up more in the world in a more feminine energy and with less masculine energy, you first have to understand what it is that you're even asking for. Because if you're asking for someone to be much more static in the way that they behave, so that it's easier to figure them out, you're asking them to be more masculine. You're not asking them to be more feminine.
You are. That was great. That was good.
Masculine energy can be thought of as the riverbank, providing structure, stability, and direction. It is solid, unwavering, and dependable, offering boundaries that guide the flow of life. It represents order, logic, and structure, creating the necessary foundation for movement and progress. Feminine energy, on the other hand, is the river, fluid, dynamic, and ever-changing. It adapts to the landscape, carving new paths when needed, while carrying the essence of life within it. Feminine energy represents intuition, emotion, and creativity, moving with grace and unpredictability, yet always finding its way. Just as a river without a riverbank would overflow into chaos, and a riverbank without a river would stand dry and lifeless, these two energies, masculine and feminine, work in harmony. If you want a relationship others can only dream of, you have to do the work. We often hear this expression, do the work, but what exactly does that mean? So what's the work? Here's a great place to start. We are all living stories. Every person lives a story. consciously or unconsciously. These stories are shaped by our experiences, our desires, our expectations, and our beliefs. In relationships, our unspoken stories often dictate how we perceive love, conflict, and fulfillment. When desiring a specific type of partner, such as a feminine wife, it's essential to ask yourself, what story am I hoping to live with her? Is this story realistic and co-created, or is it based on a fantasy? Am I living in a way that makes the story possible? Step 1. Define the story you envision. Ask yourself, what do I believe a feminine wife looks like? How do I imagine she will act in our daily lives? How do I expect to feel in this relationship? For example, admired, cared for, inspired, supported, challenged? What are the key traits I associate with femininity in a wife? Where did I get this image? Was it media, culture, family, faith, or past relationships? Step 2. Analyze the emotional core of your story. What emotions am I seeking from this dynamic? Do I expect her to fill emotional needs I struggle to fulfill myself? Do I see her as an equal partner or as someone to perform a role for me? Am I hoping for a wife to create a life I don't yet know how to build on my own? Key insight. The more specific and rigid your expectations are, the more likely they will create frustration when reality doesn't match your script. Step 3. The dual perspective. Her story matters too. Does the woman I desire have the same vision for her life and marriage? Is my definition of femininity something she would willingly embrace? Have I considered what she would need from me in order for her to live the story? The healthiest relationships are co-authored, not dictated by one person's vision. Step 4. How will she handle challenges? Imagining a feminine wife often includes an assumption about how she will deal with hard times. So ask yourself, how do I expect her to handle personal challenges, career, family struggles, and personal growth? How do I expect her to handle conflict with me? How do I expect her to respond when I fall short? Key reflection. If I expect her to always be graceful and understanding, am I willing to do the same? If I expect her to be patient, am I building a relationship where she feels safe enough to be that way? If I expect softness, do I create an environment where softness can thrive? Step 5. Assessing your role in the story. A fulfilling relationship story isn't just about her actions. It's about who you are in the dynamic. So ask yourself, am I the kind of man who naturally attracts and sustains the relationship I desire? Do my actions create emotional safety, trust, and admiration? Am I willing to support her in being her best, or do I just want her to fit my ideal? Try this exercise. Identify 3 habits, behaviors, or beliefs you may need to adjust to make your ideal relationship story a reality. Reflect on whether your story is adaptable, or if it requires your partner to mold herself into a fixed role. And step 6, co-writing the story together. A strong marriage isn't built by imposing a script onto your partner. It's built through shared vision and adaptation. Steps to align your story with reality. Have honest conversations. Don't assume your vision is shared. Ask her about her vision. Be flexible. Life is unpredictable. The feminine wife you imagine will evolve as a person. Can your story evolve with her? Take responsibility for your role. A woman's ability to be nurturing, soft, or supportive depends on how she feels in the relationship. If you want warmth, do you create an atmosphere that invites it? Final reflection. Are you building the right story? Before looking for someone to fit your vision, reflect on these questions. Am I prepared to co-write this story? Or am I searching for someone to act out a script that I've already written? Am I choosing a partner based on compatibility or an idealized fantasy image? Is my definition of femininity healthy, or does it come from cultural programming that may not serve a real, evolving relationship? By consciously shaping your expectations, aligning them with reality, and committing to personal growth, you increase your chances of creating a fulfilling and lasting relationship where both you and her truly feel seen, valued, and respected. If you are ready to do the work, go to couplesdevelopment.com to download your free accompanying workbook for the exercise featured in this video To grab your free copy, click on Free Resources on the menu. Always remember that a great relationship is not one where your partner plays the role you imagined. It's one where you both build a story that neither of you could have written alone. Did you know that having a supportive social network is the strongest predictor of whether we achieve our goals? Unfortunately, many of us lack the encouragement, compassion, and accountability needed for true growth. Healing and personal development thrive in an environment of support and healthy challenge. You don't have to do this work alone. If you're ready for support and guidance, feel free to reach out.